Hey everybody, welcome to the Ryan Weiner podcast, and thank you for joining us today. We talk about everything that has to do with existence here, so if you're into understanding why you're here and all that kind of good stuff, you're in the right spot. We have a really cool guest with us today, Miss Erica Tait. Erica is a near-death experiencer and had an out-of-body experience, near-death experience, kind of really changed her life, and now you are working as a quantum therapist and quantum psychotherapist. So I had seen your story, and I thought you had a really cool near-death story, especially just it's prolonged. You had like a kind of a long event take place there. So if you want to, you can just kind of start by jumping in and tell us what happened with everything, and then we'll talk about how things changed and everything after that.
Okay, yeah, well, thanks for having me. So, yeah, it happened about 11 years ago now, 11 and a half years ago, and I, one morning, decided to go on a hike by myself, and I did. I woke up with a very strange feeling in my stomach, which I now know as intuition, but at the time, I didn't understand what that bad feeling was trying to tell me. Um, and yeah, but I overrid that feeling and did the hike anyways. And I was a bit crazy at the time, and it's called Palisades Cliffs in New Jersey.
Okay.
And there's cliffs that are along the Hudson River. And I got to the edge of one of the cliffs, and it was a dried up waterfall. And I had climbed up this waterfall before,
Mm-hmm.
but I'd never climbed down, and I didn't know there was a difference between climbing down versus climbing up, and I just decided insanely to start climbing down this waterfall without any ropes or anything like that, and I immediately got caught at the top. There was no place else for me to put my hand or my feet, um, and it was about a 60-foot drop, and I waited there for 20 minutes or so to see if someone would come, and no one did that day. And so I had no choice, because my arms were shaking. I had no choice but to step onto a rock that was beneath me that had like wet moss on it, and I knew
Mm-hmm.
it was really dangerous to do that. And it was. And I put my foot on it and slipped and fell 60 feet onto huge boulders. And I was unconscious for about, I'm not really sure, probably about, I don't know. I was able to, first, I was able to somehow, like, fight or flight kicked in, and
Yeah.
I woke up and was able to reach the back of my backpack, and my phone survived, and I dialed 911. But I was so concussed that I didn't know my name, who I
Yeah.
was, where I was, and so I was just like, I'm dying. Please help. I can't breathe. Come, please help me. And I just went unconscious. Uh, I had broken my spinal cord, my pelvis, my arms, my ribs, punctured my lungs. So I was suffocating, and that's ultimately the thing that like killed me. Um,
Right.
and and yeah, my head was bleeding, so I went unconscious and I was down there for 7 hours.
Yeah, I
And
remember that. That is freaking terrible.
yeah, it was 7 hours, and it was wild because they were trying to trace my phone, but the signals were like jumping off, were like somehow pointing me to the opposite side of the river in
Yeah.
Yonkers. So they had search teams looking for me in Yonkers, and that's why it took so long. But anyways, I that was when I during that 7 hour period was when I had what many people call a near death experience. And just a side note, the night before I fell off the cliff, I got in a fight with my little sister about how there was no such thing as God, because I was a huge atheist. I was like the number one atheist. Would get into an argument with
Right.
anybody about it, and I made her cry. And then the next morning, I go on this cliff and I fall off this cliff, and then I meet God, or I learn God, and so yeah, the first thing that happened was I left my physical body. I separated from my body, and I learned that there's something that survives death, and that I actually am not just this physical body. So that was huge. And then I had what many people call a life review, where my whole life flashed before my eyes in a moment's time. And I, at the time, had a ton of trauma, and I was in addiction. I was an addict, and I was just really living a life that was out of alignment. And I saw that very clearly during my life review. It showed me how out of alignment I was actually living, and like off the path of like my purpose and mission here. And there was no one judging me, really. There was no like outside judgment that like you're bad or you're good. It was actually the only person judging was the most objective version of myself. And it wasn't like a shame ridden judgment. It was much more like objective and like very like an honest assessment of like, hey, you're not doing this right. You're actually way off track. And in that, there was a lot of compassion and deep understanding for all of the people that I had unconsciously negatively impacted. And so, and what that did was it motivated me. It was like, okay, I have to like change shit up. Like I have to come back, and I have to make things right. Because I saw how it determines what's next. Whatever happens next to my soul, to my consciousness, was dependent on what I had done in this life. And then came the white light experience that so many people talk about, where it felt like I met God, but God, what I saw was everything and within all of us. It was pure consciousness, and this consciousness is like the ultimate love and the inherent oneness of reality. And I saw that it's in every single cell, every atom. It's in everything. And that we're actually all one being. And it was a massive realization for me, and I received a ton of information like downloaded into my body, into my cells. I didn't retain all of it, but it was more of like a over time, and still to this day, it's like I'm still it's like unfolding. Like whatever I learned at that time is still yeah. I get little doses of it once in a while. And yeah, and it was a joint decision between me and God to come back into the body, into Erica, and so I made a decision / was forced to come back into the body. And as I did, I remember taking a deep inhale, like opening my eyes and like was so wild, but there was a firefighter who was off duty, but listening to the call. And he just had an intuition, like a gut feeling of like where I was. And he did the hike. And in the moment that I came back into my body and took that inhale and opened my eyes, I saw his little head pop over the
Yeah.
cliff. And he yelled down and said, like, I'm coming. Like, I'm coming to help you. Like, you're
Yeah.
safe, whatever. Um, and yeah, and he saved my life. And I spent a month in critical care and in the hospital, and then a month in physical rehabilitation, learning how to walk again,
Yeah.
and then 6 months bedridden. Like, I just didn't leave my bed for 6 months after that, and it was really a profound time because I got to I had no choice but to really integrate this experience. You know, I came back into my body was still super traumatized, like addicted, like really unhealthy,
Right.
you know, but my soul, it's like my soul had this like extremely profound purifying experience. And so it was like an integration, having to like really come into like a deep, deep, deep healing and an awakening, the awakening of Erica, and acceptance of and acceptance that Erica's gonna die one day, but
Hmm.
also knowing that it's like a totally safe thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was the experience.
Well, that's very cool. One of the things I was going to ask you, so when you were at the point where you consider yourself no longer in your body, you're now having this experience, were you in contact with anything or anyone that was like talking to you, any family members or anything, or was it just kind of a autonomous experience?
That is something that makes my NDE a bit different from others, I would say, is that I didn't come into contact with any other like beings other
Yeah.
than like pure consciousness itself. It was just me and God.
That's actually not that rare. Like,
Oh,
because
really?
yeah, there's a lot of people that have that too. It's people are like, does everybody have kind of the same thing? And I'm like, well, it's kind of the same in the fact that your heart stops beating. I mean, that part's the same for everybody, right? And then there's some sort of a noticing of yourself in a different place than you were beforehand. But yeah, sometimes people talk to people. Sometimes they just have yeah, I knew somebody was over my shoulder, but I couldn't like see them. But yeah, sometimes a lot of people are just like they have kind of like more like what you're saying, where they kind of went through a series of events in their experience, and like you said, there was that kind of co-thinking thing going on, but it wasn't like a direct conversation like we're having now.
Yes, exactly. It was like telepathically like
Yeah.
talking. Yeah.
So you come back from this and now you've gotten yourself you're rehabilitated. So and I was going to say the 6 month thing, I totally understand that. I had issues with drug and alcohol stuff in the past too, and when I finally like got sobered up or like quit everything, yeah, it takes you like a good like 6 months to like feel like your normal self, you know. So I mean, that part by itself is going to add to everything with the physical therapy and everything you're going through with too. So, when did you say like, okay, maybe you were already doing it, but when did you decide, okay, I'm going to be a psychotherapist? Like, how did you decide to pick what line of what you wanted to do with your life?
Actually, so I had actually wanted to be a social worker since I was like 12 years old. So
Hmm.
that was already like the path.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So it was, and that was, it's just weird. Like, what 12-year-old just knows that she wants to be a social worker? You know, there's been some deep codes inside me, like knowing of like what I'm here to do, kind of, since I was
Yeah.
pretty
Same
young.
here.
Amazing. Yeah. And um, so that was already in me. But what the path that I've taken in like the field of psychotherapy, like like really including spirituality as like the foundation of that of healing, and psychotherapy. That's like the cliff experience is what shifted that direction, where I actually wanted to take a much more holistic approach to my work.
Yeah, absolutely. On your bio on your website, or like on the thing, you have a very long bio, so I wasn't going to go and list all of the different stuff that's on there. But so somebody wants to be a therapist or a social worker, and now you are also, you said you bring into it the what normally people would call paranormal type of stuff and spiritual views and things along those lines. Can you talk more about like how you combine those things?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, well, one is what feels really important is that I will always meet a client where they're at in terms of like their openness level and and yeah, how much experience they have around this and how much they're even open to believing or even experiencing. But how I combine it is, one, I'm a huge believer in not believing anything that you hear just because you hear it or just because you like it. I actually tell anyone in any of my containers to only believe once you have direct experience. Like, so what I do is that I hold experiences, or I facilitate experiences for people to have to, and so what that could look like, it's like breathwork journeys, or it can look like meditative experiences that I guide people through, or sometimes dance journeys will do that. All sorts of helping people access altered states, energy work, shamanic experiences, like I help people enter altered states of consciousness so that they have direct experience of spiritual reality versus me just like, hey, this stuff is real, like chakras are real, energy is real, like it doesn't work like that. I actually point clients to the experience, and then once that happens, yeah, it's quite people get really excited once they recognize that physical reality isn't all that there is.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that's the well, how do I put this? Like everybody in the tech bro industry and all these people are all about that kind of stuff going on over the last couple of years. Everybody's going on their ayahuasca trips and everything, and I'm like, dude, that's great. Done all that, but like you need to actually do authentic stuff. Like you don't need all of that stuff. I know it sounds unbelievable to people, but you can actually get into the exact same state that you, like if somebody's doing something like a psychedelic and they're like, well, I think that that's just a chemical reaction in my brain and I'm getting hallucinations and it's fun, right? I took it at a concert. Then you have somebody else who's like, no, I'm doing plant medicine because this opens up a portal and it helps me communicate with the other side and this and that. And yeah, it does, but you don't need that to be able to do there. And the other thing too that I told people, I said that's not a prolonged, sustained experience. It's sort of like you're in a dragster and you're just driving really fast and then like you're done and now you're just walking around the stadium for the rest of the time and stuff. So you got to learn to do the stuff on your own. Yeah, which I'm terrible at practicing that kind of stuff too. So
well, that's the problem. It's hard. The thing is that plant medicine, what the beauty of it is that it's an easy way. Yeah, it's an easy way to get a taste of it. And it's so hard for us, discipline, habits, like effort. Like it's a hard thing to cultivate the effort and like and commitment needed to access these states, whereas plant medicine is a beautiful way to just like get a taste of it, but that's it. It's only going to be a taste, and it's not going to create the lasting change that like actually like implementing these things and more regularly can do.
Yeah, I try and tell people too, I said the thing is, you'll notice on psychedelics that you don't remember anything afterwards. It's like trying to remember your dream that you had. Like you have to have a thing to talk into or something. But if you're actually doing regular meditative work, like you do remember the stuff. It sticks with you because it's a real experience. Sadhguru, I'm sure you're familiar with that guy. He was asked by a bunch of college students about something like that, and he was like, "Yeah, but even when I'm meditating and I see all these different deity things and they're trying to talk to me, I'm just like, go away. I don't need you to talk to me. You're just distracting me." So he was like telling him, he's like, all of the, he's like, yeah, dude, there's a certain amount of realness that you're talking about. Like, yes, you are making some kind of a connection, but that's really like not really the way to be doing it, and it's not, you're sort of like just running in circles. It's an interesting experience, but you need to move past it and like mature to like be like an adult, not a kid who's entertained by little keys jingling in front of you and stuff.
I love that. Yeah, it's like ultimately a distraction, right? These beings or these experiences, like they're exciting, but they're actually distracting from the ultimate goal, which is full awakening
Hmm.
and
Yeah, go on.
and the relief of suffering, because that's ultimately like what we're all looking for, right? Like fundamentally,
Hmm.
we're all looking, we're all just trying to find happiness, you know,
Yeah.
and we're trying to relieve our suffering, and we keep getting distracted. We keep thinking that these things that we get, or even that the cool experiences that we have in meditation, like that are so temporary, that it it's still just a
Mhm.
distraction. It's still not the lasting happiness that comes with like full awakening.
It's funny what you were talking about with the life review, and you were talking about how you're like, yeah, it's all the negative stuff, but it doesn't feel like judgmental. I equate that to, I have not had that same experience, but when people tell me about it that have done a bunch of different stuff, they said the same way that like psychedelics turn your ego off. So like you're like, oh wow, I made a lot of mistakes when I was a kid, but like there's no guilt associated with it or anything. It's just informational um, revelation, so to speak. It's like revelatory information, but it doesn't come with any kind of shame or emotional baggage or feeling angry about stuff. It's actually the total and complete opposite. It's just total acceptance for what all like the situations were. So I always tell people, I said that's like it's yeah, like it's good because then like when somebody experiences that, then I go like, hey, there's other stuff out there, and they're like, oh yeah, I've experienced something different. But yeah, man, if you're somebody who has just like grown up in farm America or suburban America, and you've just gone to school, and you've got parents who were never into anything like this, they're you've probably never even realistically been like exposed to any kind of different stuff that improves your life at all. You're just kind of going through the motions of being a gear, kind of in the system, so to speak, for a lot of different people out there. But that's majorly changing.
It really is, which is so beautiful. It's happening on a, like the awakening is happening on a collective scale, and unfortunately, it's through crisis. It's through suffering. It's like that
Yeah.
is the way, because no one really wakes up without feeling pretty desperate. Usually it's very rare that people just awaken when they're living happy lives.
Yeah, that's everybody I know that's always like, oh, this is my last time down here. I'm never coming here again, blah, blah. She's like, yeah, it's because you're like, negative $3,000 in credit card debt, and, none of your relationships have worked out, and you have like a bad foot, like you've got all this stuff going on. But if you were somebody who seemingly is in wonderful health all the time, you're born into a bunch of money, you and your family, and there's no bad strings that come with it. You can just kind of do whatever you want your whole life. You're going to be like, oh, I can't wait to come down. Next time I'll be a race car driver or something. Because that seems to be the way things go. So yeah, it's. I always tell people that too. I said, look, you're saying that now, but you won't have that same opinion later or on the other side. But then, now there's also, I'll ask you about this then too, because, there's all of the different narratives everybody has about everything. And so you've got the narrative of, I think everybody right now at this point in 2026, if you're anybody who's into this kind of stuff, you're aware of the fact that everybody's down here more than one time. It's not some sort of like, you're down here once and oh, pass fail, and we're going to throw you in a trash pile. No, it doesn't work like that. People are down here more than once. But let me ask you a question. Do you think people kind of get stuck recycling in these different, like, Dr. Monroe thought that from the Monroe Institute, he had this, he had a concept that he thought, people think you're stuck kind of in this trap type system, reincarnating over and over sometimes. And then you have somebody else who says like, no, 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 no. It's like a school. You entered in here and you can't leave until you graduate because you had to lower your vibration, get down. Now you have to raise it back up. So you got all these different narratives on kind of the purpose of everything here. What's your, like your kids or somebody said, Mom, what's the meaning of life? Why are we here? What's all that? Like, how would you answer that?
Yeah, I would say that it is to, we'll call it God or consciousness. Consciousness itself cannot experience itself.
Mm-hmm.
And so in order for it to experience itself, it manifested into what we call 3D reality, or we call it this world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like we're all separate beings, but we're actually just this one thing that, is expressed through physical, and it looks like separation. And in that, we're trying to experience ourselves, but we've forgotten what we actually are,
Mm-hmm.
which is consciousness, which is pure consciousness experiencing itself. And in that, we keep coming back again and again. It is like a learning. It is like we're it's a school in a way, is what I believe.
Yeah.
That there is it's like a school in some ways, because we learn through karma, we learn through suffering, and we do end up getting trapped a little bit, because it's hard to wake up, and then until we finally wake up, remember who we truly are, what we truly are, and then we get to actually experience life totally with total internal freedom. And then I guess that's what you would call enlightenment, where then one has now become full consciousness, pure consciousness, and I don't think returning is necessary at that point.
Yeah. I was going to ask if you are familiar at all with like the Gnostic scriptures at all, with kind of like it's kind of a blend where you've got the planets and kind of like the planetary ruler archon type things controlling stuff. Are you familiar with that at all?
Not really, but it sounds really interesting.
Okay. I'll send you a link. You can check it out. But it's just the Gnostic Christianity creation story is different. There's all kinds of stuff. Like, people don't know this. Like, that's one thing. When I was 19, I was like, the History Channel would have everything about anything about Nazis and the occult, UFOs, or anything about something having to do with ancient Christianity. That was all of the History Channel, 24 hours a day. So I got into trying to find out like more of like the historical, archaeological type of aspect of like ancient Christianity and who wrote all this stuff and everything, which if you're a person of really strong mainstream faith, don't look into any of that, okay? Just don't. Because, you're going to find out lots of stuff doesn't make sense. But, I got really into that, and so I got into the Gnostic stuff, and that's one where that has that concept of, like, the Hindu religion, or Buddhism, where you're kind of in the reincarnation loop over and over until you expand out of here, basically, that you can't just leave after you get in here. That's what I wondered if you had any kind of experiences with that at all. You said you do like past life regression stuff?
I personally don't hold those. I don't facilitate past life regressions.
Oh,
I
okay.
hold retreats. In my retreats, I have a professional hypnosis that does them and guides my clients, and I've done them myself. Yeah.
Yes, that's what I was going to get to. I wanted to ask if you have any knowledge of past lives or anything like that.
Oh, yeah. I've had experiences in deep meditative states of, including, the past life regression hypnosis. I've had, of course, I've had experiences with that, but, like, I've also had many in just deep meditative states. And so for me, past lives isn't something I believe in. It's something that I have direct experience with.
Right.
So for me, it's just, like, obvious.
Right. Yeah, I think I'm finally seeing that people out there everywhere are starting to kind of come to the conclusion, like on the Christian Broadcast Network, they were having like a discussion group of whether it was okay to believe in past lives and whether that's a possible, because in the Bible it says all of the opposite of that, even though every other religion tells you that you do. Um, but yeah, it's just everybody's kind of coming around to it. At a certain point in time, you have to be kind of incredulous not to be paying attention to what everything else is going around with all the other humans around you. And like, well, if 90% of people are having this experience, maybe it's true. Um, so yeah, I always tell people. I said I don't think anybody's putting thoughts in your head that are evil thoughts that about past lives or something like that. But do you have any notable like past life experiences or anything you want to talk about? I know sometimes people were in different continents that are no longer here and all that kind of stuff.
I'd say I've what I've experienced is that I have a lot of past lives as a monk, as like an Asian
Oh,
male
okay.
monk, and that I my highest the life of my highest development, spiritual development was as a monk, and it actually directly connected to my cliff experience, me falling off the
Mhm.
cliff. Because
Okay.
falling off the cliff, the thing is that once you once you reach a certain level of awakening, like your lives, you kind of like your life will like kind of try to get you. Each life that we live will try to get you back to that place as
Right.
quickly as possible, if possible, And
You have
so
unfinished business and it wants to finish your business.
yeah, pretty much. Or it just wants to start back to where we left off,
Hmm.
in terms of the awakening process, so that we can continue to develop. And so my cliff experience was a way for my being to like reset and come back to a level of awakening that I had or consciousness that I had during that monk past life.
That's very cool. Um, I think it's interesting the different things like life-wise that people do. Have you had any obscure lives? Like, did you do anything where you had a weird job? Sometimes people have like weird memories about stuff. Like one time somebody was a clown in a circus, but in like medieval times. Like a jest. They were
That's cool.
like some kind of a traveling circus. He's like, oh, I mean, it was miserable. It didn't sound fun. But that was like how he survived. He's like, yeah. He's like, I was with this like traveling circus because my parents died, and like he's like, I think I died when I was like 14 or 15 of like some kind of like illness or something like that. It was. But it was just, he said, like, yeah, it was just the most weird, obscure little thing that he popped into his head of performing in a circus as this, younger person. You didn't live past 30 back then, so, that was kind of the way things are. But yeah, I wondered if you had any famous stuff or anything notable.
Mine were just so plain, and that's also something that was kind of reassuring to me because I'm a very big skeptic until I have experience, as I said, and
Right.
so it was helpful because like I was always like people are always saying they are all these famous people in their past
Yes.
life or like they're these
Everyone's
goddesses in
Cleopatra.
Egypt. Yeah, exactly. Like everyone's these things, and like it's kind of like I just don't understand how that's true. And for me, like my past lives, like I was a rice farmer in one of them.
Mhm.
The other one, I was a single mom of a disabled boy, and my whole life was devoted to him. And yeah, and then another one, I was a alcoholic that
Mhm.
hurt a lot of people. So those were my past lives, and nothing too crazy, but all highly influential to the person I am in this life.
Right. Yeah, that's always funny to me too. Like I said, yeah, everyone always, oh, I was Cleopatra in another life. And I'm like, first off, why does every girl choose Cleopatra? I don't get it. Like, there's no other famous women. You can't think of anybody else. Um, so there's that. And then at the same time, yeah, like somebody was saying that. If you're familiar with Dr. Stephen Greer, we were talking about something and somebody was kind of asking him about that with remote viewing and something else. And they said, yeah, like, how is it that two different people were Cleopatra? And he's like, well, he's like, there's all this information out in the field, so to speak, and like sometimes when people are kind of tapping in, he's like, I think they tap into memories of other people, and maybe they're not that skilled. They can't discern at that point of what's, just something flashing in and what's connected to something I actually did. But yeah, I've always found that funny. Yeah, nobody is ever like, Shlomo the cart boy who went around, picking up rocks or something like that. It always has to be I was a warrior, I was a ninja, I was something else. Probably not. But let me ask you, so another thing here. So we've got recently, I'm sure you're aware, everybody's talking about, we have a sort of a split in timelines type thing going. We have our spring equinox. We've entered the age of Aquarius, and all these different people on the way of like channeling. That's one where a lot of times like there's not a lot of people that do channeling where I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll take this person's word for it, because that's another one where anybody can say they're doing something, So it's one of those things, but yeah, all of the different people in that area, Daryl Anka with his Bashar person that he talks to and everybody, that's what they're all kind of like, yeah, there just seems to be this sort of split where people are putting their focus or intention into two different things. One of them is, let's get as entrenched in problems as we can, let's get out in the streets and fight each other, let's get as much technology as we can to save our lives because we can't think for ourselves, and let's just completely get rid of everything that makes us humans. No emotions, no genders, no religions, no spirituality, no anything. It's like they've got that motivation. They just want this materialistic thing that they're driven towards. And then you have the other part of us in society that are actually going, yeah, I'm actually wholly like rejecting that kind of. I really don't want to go to war with anybody for glory. Doesn't seem very cool to me. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on. What are you seeing? Like, what's your experience been, not only as a person, but also maybe with like clients that are coming to you? Like, have you seen a change in people's like levels of awakening and awareness or motivations for therapy?
Absolutely. These years between 2025 and 2027 are known in many spiritual traditions as like the Great Change.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so, I've been preparing for these years. I've known that they were coming, and always a little skeptical, and it's here and it's so obvious,
Mm-hmm.
it's like right in front of our faces. So yeah, like the split is here for sure. And transformation and awakening comes from crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Crisis precedes change, and so yeah, like people are showing up in that way. And I've also never seen people wake up as quickly. Like the acceleration of
Mm-hmm.
people, like so many of my clients quit their jobs and are now all healers, therapists, like also channelers. Like everyone's just like really like committing to their soul path now.
Mm-hmm.
Or the people that I've been working with at least, and it's happening so quickly. And yeah, it has to do with what's the shift that's here on the planet, where the soul culture is coming. It's
Right.
just
Yeah.
there's a lot of people, many people that are still drenched in the ego, and in order to break free from that, there's going to be suffering along the way. But I see that it's coming.
Yeah, I like. I'll send you a link to it if you want to watch it. There's a video that somebody made. It's only about 45 minutes. It's just basically on Edgar Casey's predictions for 2026 through 2028, and then going further for that. But
No way.
yeah, somebody put all that stuff together in kind of a shorter video. But yeah, I mean, like, you have all of these different levels of various disaster everybody seems to be predicting for stuff. You've got guys like me where, like, yeah, I see different tumultuous stuff happening, but I've been used to that for 46 years. I've been watching literally for 40. When I was a kid, I thought we were going to die in a nuclear holocaust because the Soviet Union was going to send nuclear missiles against the U.S. when Reagan was in office. So these different people that think we're going through a crisis now, I'm like, dude, I was born in crisis. Okay, I was literally born at 9:11 a.m. on December 17th. I was born for this. So, but it's really funny, like you were saying about, the different, you have these sort of like epiphany moments, and you're like, oh, wait a second, okay, I've got this total purpose that I'm supposed to be here. All of this different stuff that happened was unpleasant, but somehow it did make me who I am at this moment and make me as prepared as I am for everything. Yeah, I had a really weird childhood and just had unpleasant, and was moving around, getting bullied, all kinds of stuff like that. But yeah, it just totally made me kind of the person I am. Same thing with the, substance addiction issues and stuff. It's made me a carved out of steel type of person where I had friends that when I was, when I stopped drinking, people were afraid that like people were going to try and, oh, here, come on, do this or that. Or I was like, dude, I will slap somebody in the face. Don't even pull that with me. Like, that's not happening. So yeah, it's made a lot of different changes. And I think that with the, I don't know what purpose everybody sees himself happening as things moving forward, but there was just things that I did in my life because I for some reason knew this was going to be happening at this point in time. Since I was a kid, I was like, I really don't need to get like some giant career in finance or something, because I feel like I would make a bunch of money, but then we're going to have this big collapse and the money's not going to be worth anything anyway, so it's not really worth it. I should learn how to build houses out of wood instead, that kind of a thing. I should learn farming skills for basic planting and how to do agriculture. But yeah, it's real strange with everything that's happening. I had been working on different stuff. We're trying to get freedom and everything going for Iran for a long time. So when this all happened, I was very happy about it at first. But it's very clear that you have, I'm sure you're aware of this, there's different people I know because I work on the disclosure of UAP stuff, and you have all these different people that are trying to literally cause the actual book of Revelations to take place with like a third world war because they think that it's going to cause this second coming and stuff like that. So yeah, unfortunately, people, some of these people that are awakening are not awakening in like a positive way. It's like they're waiting for like all these predictions to just come true, basically.
Interesting. So they think that the Third World War will lead to
ushering in an antichrist who will then bring a Jesus character afterwards. So these people, like, there's people in Congress that have told, like, yeah, there's all these different religious folk telling Donald Trump this and stuff. So it's like a real thing that, that's what everybody thinks that they're trying to do, is bring about some kind of a third world war in the Middle East. So I don't know. We'll see, if anybody's successful at that or not. People have to fall for stuff. So I don't know, but it's what's real interesting though. Do you pay attention to Chris Bledsoe at all? Are you familiar with him? Okay, he's a contactee that was predicting a bunch of stuff around this time, the 2627 with the star Regulus being in front of the Sphinx and some other different stuff like that. But he was predicting all of like the UAP stuff that we're seeing over Iran and like Jerusalem right now.
wow.
Are you familiar with any of that kind of stuff, or?
Not really.
Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't know. Like sometimes people are they're kind of keeping track of like different people's predictions or stuff. But I just wondered if I was going to ask if you have any different things. Like you said, you see, that this is a time period of change. Do you have any kind of stuff that you're kind of waiting to see happen, or waiting like specific events that you've seen or anything?
I think that it's just been about a global awakening after a collapse. Like pretty much that's what I'm waiting. There's nothing really specific. More so just like feeling a shift in consciousness on a collective scale, global scale.
Yeah.
And I only have my tentacles on like the New Jersey tri-state area, and especially like the community that is connected to Quantum, which is a good amount of people, a few hundred, and I notice it. It's happening.
Yeah.
It's here. And so, like, and I know I'm biased. Like, people that contact me are contacting me because they're interested in this kind of stuff, but it's very different from, it's very different from what it looked like 5 years ago. So,
Yeah.
something's happening.
Yeah, that's kind of like those people are contacting you for a particular reason because that's what's going on with them. And then you have other people that are like, something terrible and horrible is going to happen and I need to go and hunker down and become more entrenched in everything. There's this religion they gave me, so I'm going to memorize it now because that'll make me go to heaven more or something, I don't know. Humans are weird. Humans are fear-based animals. So
Yeah,
everything humans do, we have fear-based mammalian bodies that we as a point of awareness as a spiritual being are attached to. So unfortunately, like if people don't understand that about themselves, that you're going to get these fear feelings all the time, you don't need to always respond to them. Sometimes it's just your brain trying to keep you alive and stuff like that. So it's going to make you feel fear about stuff like other people's cultures, for example, xenophobia. It's not a good thing just because your body is making you feel fear about something. You need to get past that kind of stuff. Have you ever seen anything that you would consider to be unexplainable or like paranormal phenomenon besides your experience where anything in the sky, any kind of do you get visitations from anybody or anything like that?
Yeah, I've had experiences where I've seen beings.
Mm-hmm.
They're more like light beings, like literally looking like uh, just energy fields is basically what they're like, white or like light energy fields, and that speak through consciousness, like just download information through your
Yeah.
mind. And so, yeah, definitely had experiences like that.
That's cool. Is it like a human type shape or more like an orb cloud type when you said a
Orb,
field?
orby
Yeah.
field, I would say. Yeah.
What do you think about the concept of these different some of the different orbs and things that people are seeing that seem to be communicating? Like I'm about to have somebody on the show who is able to. They're like the light flashing and stuff is like cryptography, like it's coded like Sumerian messages and all kinds of stuff like that.
I'm super open and receptive to these kinds of things. Again, like I base everything on personal experience, so like I'm open, and also like something about trusting my felt intuitive sense.
Yeah.
I think that there is something where we can all feel truth in
Hmm.
in our systems, and
Yeah.
it's separate from our mind. It's a tool that we have that can sense authenticity and can sense truth. And I think that like with all of this stuff in the spiritual field, like it's such a fine line between reality and delusion, you know? And because
Oh
so
yeah.
much of it and because so much of it is like unperceptible, like with like the five senses, like we need even more discernment because it's so easy to make stuff up or to um, be in fantasy, you know? And there is a reality to the spiritual dimension. Like it is real as hell.
Right.
And there's because we can't see, smell, taste, all of that, like it's also extremely easy for us to become deluded. And
Hmm.
so I find it really important to cultivate that like sense of uh, truth, like sensing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool, man. I like that. Do you I want to be respectful. I know we're coming up on the hour here. Do you have any words of I don't know, words of closing or anything you kind of like stuff you'd like everybody to know? And I'll put all the information, of course, for everybody to get in touch with you and everything below. But what kind of stuff as we're moving forward, if this is all somebody sees for some reason, what do you want to leave them with?
Yeah, I want to leave them with like the reassurance that death is safe and that we're all, even if we say we're not scared of dying, our animal bodies are scared of dying.
Right.
But if we can, like, all I can say is that there is nothing to be afraid of, that actually death is just the beginning of the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'd invite is what I call deathbed consciousness, and to live as if to put yourself on your deathbed as regularly
Yes.
as you
Thank
can.
you. I love that.
Yeah, to put yourself on your deathbed as regularly as you can and look at your life from there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you going to be satisfied if you were to die tomorrow? Or look around. Does your life feel like it's in alignment with what you'd be happy and proud of at that moment? And if
Right.
not, how would you live if you knew that you were going to die tomorrow? Because the truth is, none of us know when we're going to die. We
Right.
hope that it's going to be in the future, but we could get hit by a drunk driver tomorrow. We can be diagnosed with a life-threatening illness. We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And to really be with death, it helps us to live so much more fully and so much more in integrity. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think, like I said, Dr. Robert Monroe did all kinds of work with this, and that's one of the things he said was you have these people that get like really attached to like being human, like for whatever they're here for, and so they constantly, like you were saying, you have this unfinished business when you die because you weren't really doing things the way you should have been doing them probably, or you weren't living a fulfilling experience. You didn't have a plan or something like that. So, yeah, as soon as you die, you still have these things that you want to accomplish, and so people will end up going into the same line of work and doing the same thing over again with that. Yeah, that was cool, man. I think we'll leave it on that one right there, I think. But yeah, Erica, thank you again for coming on today. Really appreciate it. Everybody who wants to get any information, if they're not in New Jersey, are they able to take any classes with you? Or you said you do retreats and things?
Yeah, I do. I hold lots of retreats, and I'm opening a whole coaching section of my business now, so I'll
Oh,
be able
cool.
to
Okay.
see people outside of New Jersey, and um, we're gonna be opening a whole segment of like near-death experience coaches.
Yeah.
So if people are interested in getting integration help from their own near-death experiences or learning from people that have near-death experiencers, like will be a hub for that.
That's awesome. And anybody wants to share their story, man, point them in my direction. That would be great.
All
Always looking
right.
for people to come on because that's actually one that is kind of sometimes like people will talk about their contactee experiences, but the near death is really emotional for people sometimes, and so sometimes that's where they have a little bit of a hard time opening up. But I'm glad that somebody like yourself does because every time you talk about that or I'm talking about being into UFOs, I don't care about that or whatever, it makes it okay for everybody else too. And that's the truth, is that we are actually the majority of society. We're not the minority. It's just that there's a lot of people who make fun of other people in the past for thinking outside the box. So that's it. But I think we're coming to the end of that. But awesome. Erica, thank you again so much for coming on. I would love to have you on again in the future as we get different things moving forward. I want to find out about your coaching section and everything. So yeah, keep in touch, and I'm going to send you that Edgar Casey video.
Please do. Thank you so much. This was
All right, awesome. You got it. Thanks, guys. Thank you for joining us today.